Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Finch, new movie out now on Apple TV Plus, a service that's interesting. There's not a whole lot of stuff. Obviously, Ted Lasso's great. I thought Mr. Gorman was kind of fun. They put out some original movies. This, I think, being the second movie that they've put out starring Tom Hanks. This one, I feel like might be the first sci-fi movie Tom Hanks has been in. I could be wrong. I didn't do any research. Just kind of thought of that at this moment. But it kind of feels like it possibly. But it is a sci-fi movie where Tom Hanks is in a post-apocalyptic Earth that has been devastated by climate change. There are superstorms and like inhabitable temperatures and radiation and all the kinds of fun things that come along with what the world might look like in, maybe if I had kids, maybe my kids would be living in, or maybe I'll be dying in a reality that's similar to this. But yeah, it's Tom Hanks. Very simple movie. There's only a handful of characters. It's Tom Hanks. He's got a robotic dog. He's got a real life dog, and he's building a robot, which he is pumping full of books. There's a scene where there's this assembly line almost of books being taken off the shelf and then scanned in one page at a time, seemingly to be archived for some reason. Come to find out it's for this robot that he's making. And the reason why he's making this robot is because he wants this robot to take care of his dog, because Tom Hanks isn't feeling too good. He's not feeling good. He's a really smart guy. He's an engineer, but he's smart enough to know that, radiation probably isn't the healthiest environment for humans to be out in, because he goes out in it. He goes out in a cool suit that apparently is air conditioned and stuff, because it's demonstrated in the movie that the air temperature, I think they mentioned at one point it gets to 165 degrees, and then I think at another time that gets up to over 200 degrees. So it's pretty toasty. So you would need a Dune type of a suit, because you would need more than that, because you would just bake. So it's he's got this special suit. But I loved the aesthetic of this movie, the tone of this movie, the emotional tone, the emotional kind of roller coaster you go on in this movie is pretty interesting. It took a little bit at first. It starts off, Tom Hanks is going through just an empty city, kind of clearing it out, looking for provisions or whatever he's doing, but he's clearing out the area, doing it systematically, probably just trying to find whatever he can, like food. It shows that food isn't really very plentiful in the place he's bunkered up. He's driving around in a giant dump truck, which I thought was amazing. It's weird how little you see giant machinery like this giant dump truck in movies. You'll see lifted trucks, you'll see stuff like Hummers, and you'll see monster kind of things, or you'll see modified large vehicles, but giant machinery this dump truck that he's just driving, it makes the best sense because he's just plowing through things, and also it's machinery that's built to work a lot and last long, so it makes sense that he would be driving this giant dump truck. But visually, I kind of enjoyed that aspect of it. In the beginning of the movie, there's this sandstorm, and he has to get back to his base because it's gnarly. And so you have some suspense there. Then there's he creates this robot, right? When he goes over what the directives are of the robot, it's Directive 1, don't kill anybody. Don't kill humans, whatever you do, and don't let humans die due to inaction or whatever. But then the fourth directive, didn't go through all of them, but the fourth directive was to protect the dog at all costs, and that bars all that overrides all prior directives. So it's like he made this dog specifically to take care of this dog, because you also see Tom Hanks kind of after he gets back from, just just barely getting out of this sandstorm. You see him thin, which he didn't need to be. I mean, it's only for a scene. He's taking a shower. He's clearly thin, not as thin as like Castaway thin, but like he's thin and he's got like wounds and he's coughing a lot. He's not doing well. It's very clear that Tom Hanks is not doing well. And then there's also a scene where it's like the camera's panning over all these books, and all these books are just, that's where all the exposition is, because it's like how to survive an apocalypse, how do you know that you have radiation poisoning? How do you, like, what are their survival guide for people who live alone? Like all the kind of exactly perfect books that Tom Hanks would need to be locked away with, potentially being the last man alive. Like there's no other people. There's flashbacks in this movie where you see kind of early on how, like in the apocalypse, how things were. But other than that, it's Tom Hanks acting with a dog, a robot dog, and this robot that's eventually named Jeff, which when it begins to talk has like this weird Russian accent, but then also acts a lot like Borat. So, and then it turns into this road movie because they got to get out of there. There's like, I think they're in like St. Louis or something like that. And there's like all these storms are going to be colliding and they got to get out of there. Oh, spoilers, by the way. I did enjoy, before I get into spoilers, really, because I kind of want to go through, because it's an interesting movie. I'd check it out. I enjoyed it. Tonally, it is a little all over the place. But Tom Hanks is great, I think. And the robot voice, while I said it's kind of weird at first, but the voice actually changes over the course of the movie, and it becomes more of this actor, Caleb Landry Jones, who plays Jeff, the robot. It becomes more of his voice and becomes this like weird Russian Borat kind of a thing. A little over 4 years ago, I started The Many Faces. It's an ongoing series of abstract ink portraits. Each piece is improvised. Each piece is released daily. Start collecting now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. And save yourself 25% when you use coupon code RTS. That stands for The Ray Taylor Show, because that's what you're listening to, and I love you. So I want you to save 25% when you use that coupon code. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF and use coupon code RTS to save 25% when you start collecting one of over 1,600 original ink paintings. By myself, I made them. Support me. I love you. Back to the show. So, I liked it. Go watch it. I'm going to be spoiling stuff. I'll try not to spoil too much, but because there's stuff I want to talk about in this movie. Because it's a very unique. I really like, by the end of it, it's a weird ride. Like it's like, oh, this is a comedy road movie, and then there's like some suspense thriller moments. There's kind of like mild horror moments. There's mostly it's road trip. It's a boy and his dog kind of movie. It gets very emotional at the end. I cried. So yeah, I liked it. It's kind of all over the place, but in the end, I enjoyed the ride. And it was one of those movies that was kind of a ride. I mean, literally, they're on a road trip, but also, it's emotionally like it 100%, maybe a little bit heavy-handed at times, but I mean, I was hooked. But they were like, it's almost like a family movie in some ways, but kind of a hard, like, I don't know. It's weird. It's just totally a weird movie. But anyway, they're on a road trip. They got to go on this road trip. And it's like he teaches the robot to walk, which is kind of a fun scene. But there's like this 100% comedy. This movie turns into just a straight up comedy where this robot is just doesn't know what to do. They're in this modified RV and like doesn't know how to sit down and just kind of it and the music, every aspect of this scene of the movie at this point is straight up comedy. Like it is, which tonally is off because you're like, he's getting out of the storm. It's kind of like this actiony moment. Then you're seeing like him with his dog that he loves, which is like extremely well groomed, but he loves the dog and he's got nothing else to do. So I can see, and the dog's always inside. Loves this dog. So it's like this heartfelt thing. And this robot, it's like a Pinocchio moment where he's Geppetto and he makes this robot that is, they didn't have time to upload all the stuff. So the robot's, has to kind of learn as he goes. And then it becomes this comedy road movie, which is like, okay. But it gives them an opportunity to be like, Tom Hanks is like bestowing his knowledge, telling him stories, teaching this robot how to like drive, how to, watch out for people because people are extremely dangerous. During this time, everybody's out for their own. And there's flashback stories of like how he came across this dog and why this dog means so much to him. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was weird when it got really comedic, but then it kind of leveled out a bit. And then it becomes, then Tom Hanks starts getting, or Finch starts getting sick, he's been sick, but he's getting sicker. As they're going on this trip, they're trying to go to San Francisco because he had this map of all the different places, potential places that they could go to evacuate if things got worse. So they're going they're going west. They're going over the Rockies to San Francisco. But it levels out. Tom Hanks kind of, he's teaching this robot. It's frustrating. He's, kind of contradicting himself, like trying to teach this robot about trust, but then also telling him never to trust humans when it's like Tom Hanks it's very confused. I would imagine being the robot when Tom Hanks is like, oh, this is what trust is. And he tells a story that isn't the best story to illustrate trust. But nevertheless, it's this theme that goes on through the movie. But then there's times where like the robot, Tom Hanks is sick. So the robot goes out on one of these missions while they're on the road trip. They're in a city, to look for food and whatever. Tom Hanks is sleeping. So the robot's like, I'm going to take initiative and I'm going to take the robot dog with me and we're going to go out and we're going to go try and, do what we're made to do on some level. We're going to have to help survive. Everybody survive. They all work together. And it doesn't go well. And Tom Hanks wakes up, he's got to save the situation. And there's, a scene where he's like, don't ever trust people, because he's like, he hadn't told the robot how dangerous people are and how dangerous the situations can get in cities, because it's not an easy world to be surviving in. So, kind of, it's not a safe and happy place like a lot of post-apocalyptic movies. How fun and joyful post-apocalyptic movie, like The Last Man on Earth TV show. That's like a very fun, joyous way of looking at a post-apocalyptic situation versus this being like completely despaired. And I mean, and it's, like inevitably what the robot was built for. The robot was built for, and we're seeing Finch slowly die in front of us. which is, another aspect of this movie which I kind of enjoyed. Kind of taking that dog movie, flipping it on his head. Because most dog movies, the dog dies. Spoilers for most dog movies. Or they find their way home. Or they play basketball. But a lot of movies with dogs in them as a main character, it's like, well, that's going to provide this movie, since that the dog is a main character. It's going to provide this dramatic movie with an extremely easy gut punch. When dogs die in movies, it's always tragic. I mean, it's never a good thing. It's a very painful thing to watch, especially if you like dogs. But even if you don't like dogs, they're sad movies generally. But this one flips it on its head because it's all about knowing that the dog's gonna outlive Finch. And that's what this, robot is supposed to become the new caretaker for the dog once Finch is gone. So you're seeing him kind of degenerate. You also see the moments. I mean, Tom Hanks is a great actor. You see the moments of joy as Jeff learns things. I mean, Jeff is very much like a child. The way he acts, it's like over the course of the movie, as the voice gets less, problematic, and I don't know, maybe I just understand. I get in the vibe of this film a little bit more. I enjoy where it started out, where it's like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna like this movie. It's like, oh, I like this movie. Then it turns into a comedy road movie. I'm like, what am I even watching? And then it kind of as the movie goes, and I don't even think it's a very long movie. It's like an hour, hour 55, so 2 hours. Not too bad. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. As the movie goes, the robot becomes more endearing. You root for the robot. You're rooting for Tom Hanks. You love even there's a scene where the robot dog, Tom Hanks, is using scissors to fix something or whatever. I forget exactly what he's doing, but he goes to set them on the table, and they fall off the table onto the ground. And the robot dog, the dog robot, has this little arm with little fingers on it, and it picks it up and hands it to him, just nonchalantly, they've clearly been living together, and Tom Hanks has gotten used to just being okay with dropping things and the dog picking them up for him. So it's a weird moment where it's like, oh, that I love that dog too, because they all have personalities, which is probably the most unrealistic thing, is that the robot dog, and Jeff, the robot Jeff, both have personalities. But once you get over that hump and you kind of get used to it, it's like you just fall in love with them. Really, giving them that kind of humanity makes them a lot more relatable, makes you care about them more. But yeah, and then there's moments in this movie where it's like, oh, there's when things are almost at their most desperate. There's a moment where they get chased, which is a scary scene. It's a moment that part of their equipment gets damaged, and because of that, it's it makes their situation even more hopeless. but they're still trying to push west to San Francisco. And there's a moment past all of those obstacles, all of those things where things are going wrong, where things are going bad, and they're just pushing along because it's like, one foot in front of the other. I mean, they're driving, but they're going, and they're just like 1 mile at a time, just like keep pushing because you don't know. And then there's like this moment where this like things actually start to get better, and they get better in a way that's almost completely unpredictable, I would say. It's a moment that kind of reminded me of Waterworld, the end of Waterworld. But there's this moment where butterflies kind of appear, and just the existence of butterflies at all is like completely unimaginable in that reality. And there's this beautiful scene where Tom Hanks goes out, like they for whatever reason he's able to go outside without a suit on. Like he's able to feel the sun on his skin for the first time since who knows how long how long the weather had been as uninhabitable as it's been. It's like he's bathing in the sunlight, and there's this beautiful scene where the butterfly flies onto his finger. It's just like it's a moment in this movie where even though there's comedic moments, it's like a tough existence. They're just trying to survive and just trying to get to a place where this robot can hopefully take care of this dog that Finch loves so much. But yeah, that's a beautiful scene with this butterfly. And then it's kind of he puts on Chekhov's white suit. Tom Hanks gets all dressed up, right? They go park. They're like just have an umbrella and some lounge furniture, some outdoor lounge chairs, which I don't know why you would have. You wouldn't really have outdoor stuff when the outdoors is completely uninhabitable, but whatever. It's a nice little scene. They got the umbrella. They got the lounge chair. They're playing fetch with the dog. It's just like this nice, it's like a moment of peace finally for them and for the audience watching them. It's this moment of peace. And it's also this moment where the dog throughout this movie has not bonded with Jeff. There's even a funny scene where Jeff is trying to communicate with the dog via barking noises. But it's this scene where it's like throughout this whole journey, Jeff has been like, oh, the dog hates me. So he's trying to bond with the dog. And Finch is trying to use this moment of playing fetch with the dog to, get them to bond together. Because Hanks knows, man. Hanks knows. And of course, you put on a beautiful white suit. What do you think's going to happen to that beautiful white suit? It's not going to stay clean. So of course, it's this scene where Hanks isn't feeling good, coughing up blood again, and it's like this moment where him and Jeff, like throughout this whole movie, they're bonding. Jeff is like a son to him in a lot of ways. He never referred, but he's trying to bestow what he can while he can. And there's this beautiful moment where Jeff, like in a very like submissive, like a scared animal would kind of curl up to like a cat, how they would, kind of rub on you. Like he goes to get close to give Finch a hug. And it's like this scene that's like, I don't think I've ever seen a scene with a robot that got me so emotional. because usually robots in movies are very like, even in like the Star Wars movies, they may have personalities or whatever, but like they never really feel real. They always feel like robots. Whereas Jeff really feels real in a lot. It's very much like a Pinocchio-esque aspect to this movie, where it's like this robot really, because like I said, they all kind of have personalities, like the dog, Jeff. So when they hug in this moment where Finch is like, towards the end, and Jeff is scared because he doesn't want to lose Finch, but he knows what his job is, to take care of this dog. Beautiful. Made me cry. That if you would have told me, well, actually, I probably would have believed it. If you told me that you're going to cry watching Tom Hanks hug a robot, I'd be like, Tom Hanks could make me. I could see that. Tom, great actor, but also playing off a robot that feels like warm and like real, like a real boy. I don't know. It got me. But yeah, a great scene. Yeah, and a great movie about a boy and his dog, whereas the dog isn't the one that dies, which that eventually happens, and you see the boy and his dog out in this new world of San Francisco, and the journey continues, kind of a thing. I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel. I mean, it would just, and the dog acting in this, amazing. They don't even have the dog's name on the credits, which is horrible. But the dog's acting in this is great. But I would not have any problems, especially since by the end of this movie, it feels like the voice of the robot is mostly Caleb Landry Jones's voice. I would not mind seeing a sequel to this, like a boy and his dog kind of tale, with the dog and Jeff in San Francisco. That would be kind of a beautiful thing. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this movie. It was weird tonally. Like it really takes some turns in the beginning, but once they hit the road, I mean, it still takes another tonal shift, when they get chased down. But overall, I kind of really enjoyed this movie. It was, by the end, I was in the movie 100%. I was along for the ride. It took a while to like warm up to Jeff, the robot Jeff. Tom Hanks is great as always. The dog was great. Story was great. I enjoyed the story. So check it out if you get the chance. It's on Apple TV Plus, and it's called Finch. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!